Soap operas may come and soap operas may go, but one seemingly goes on forever. I mean, it makes things like Dallas and Dysentery and Cross-Eyed look like callow youths. But now that the leading lady has left, I wonder, will it retain its popularity? Will life ever be the same again at the Rover's return? Now that Elsie Tanner has headed off for the sun and the sea and God knows what else in Portugal. Well, I know somebody who knows Elsie better than most, and she perhaps can tell us all about it. Pat Phoenix. These are the new chairs, Pat, for the new series.
Lovely.
Are you comfortable?
Yeah, very comfortable. Lovely.
Yes. Yeah, because if you're not, just say so, and we usually change them about twice a night, you know.
You do?
Yeah.
You do? Oh, it's very good for the posture.
It is great. You can sit up straight. Well, I can't slouch because the stomach sort of hangs over the trousers.
I have the same trouble myself.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
you're very slim.
I'm not really, no. No, it's the dress. It hides a multitude of sins.
I see, yes. Perhaps I should wear one of those.
Red, yes.
Tell me, where does Elsie Tanner stop and Pat Phoenix begin?
Well, that's a question, isn't it? I suppose any actor or actress playing a part for 22 years has to put a great deal of themselves into the character. But she does stop. She stops with bottles of milk on the table. She has 2 children. I have 5 dogs. We have the same temper. We have the same...
Slow to anger.
Oh, yeah, yes, yes. The same sort of daftness. The head rules the heart and always has done. But beyond that, it stops, you know, then it finishes there.
How much of Pat did you put into Elsie? Or how much of Elsie has seeped into Pat?
Oh, well, ecithumps come into the vocabulary an awful lot.
You've never said that before, Coronation Street.
No, and sure up and get off and all that. And those lovely phrases like, shut your gob before a bus drives into it. You get all those Rodine phrases, you know, nice things like that. But to answer your question, I built a lot. It was beautifully written in the first place by young Tony Warren, who was a genius, and it was way ahead of its time when it first came out. I had a wonderful script. But it was, as most scripts of that time, just 2-dimensional. But I used my Irish mum for a lot of Elsie Tanner, and I don't mean the naughty part of Elsie Tanner. I mean the part where she'd say to Dennis, Dennis, if you do that again, I'll clout you around the ear hole, which actually meant, in translation, don't do that because you're hurting my feelings. Yeah. You understand that very well. That's Irish.
You've got a lot of thick ears, but if you understood, it didn't hurt quite as much.
That's it. And I used a lot of my mother's character in Elsie Tanner. Because I'd had no experience of wayward sons and daughters at that time.
Did your mum have a very hard life?
Yes, she did. She had a terrible time. She was a decent Irish girl, you know, and I don't know if you know the story. It's like Dynasty and Dallas all rolled into one without the money, you know.
What, your story?
My mum's story. My mum met a gentleman in Ireland, and they married very quickly, or at least she thought they did. And she was married for 16 years till one fine morning she found that she was bigamously married. He was in an accident with another lady, and then she discovered that he was married to yet another lady. And by that time, I was about 8 years old, so she ups with her baggage, takes me by the hand, and drags me off out into the wide streets of Manchester.
Did it, do you think, rebound on you in later life? Because I know that your own personal life is not without its elements of tragedy as well.
A great, I suppose, insecurity. Always that sense of loss. I've often wanted to talk to other people when they lose a parent that's still there, if you know what I mean. That sudden wrench at that age of 8. It did. I always had to be... I was always fighting for something. I always had to be best at everything. To prove myself, I suppose, to prove that I was worthy of some more love.
You're the Mother Earth figure in Coronation Street. You've been the same off-camera, really, haven't you?
I suppose so. If you mean that I listen to sad stories, and I suppose because, hey, I've been through mill myself, you know, lad, and you see other people's sadnesses and things like that, and I collect families around me.
But you have to preserve a hard front.
Oh, sure. If you didn't, people would... I've got a wonderful defence, and that was the Elsie Tanner temper, you see. That flaring of the nostrils and the glaring eyes. And the public, after a time, began to expect it of me, and...
What, do the public confuse you? Obviously, they do
sure
with Elsie
they do.
Tanner.
Sure they do.
I mean, do you get middle-aged men approaching you in pubs with certain suggestions?
Not only middle-aged men. They're getting younger by the age. I can't tell you that. No, I don't think I can tell you that story. It's rude. But you have to have some form of defence, and that temper is a great shield. And the public just enjoy it now, you see. Say, she's got a rag out, Luke, Elsie's losing her temper. But it doesn't matter whether they call me Elsie or Pat. I had an experience of that last year. We went out for summer season to Bournemouth, and I was playing Middle European, and the accent was quite thick, and, you know...
Very Irish, that was.
Oh, it was, wasn't it? Yes. And the people came round afterwards and said, "Hey, Elsie, it took us a bit of time to get used to the accent, but we liked it. You were very good in that part." So what does it matter whether they say Elsie or Pat was good or bad or indifferent in the part?
But did you want the part when it was offered to you first? Didn't I read somewhere that you didn't actually want it?
Well, I'll tell you why, because it was at a time, you won't remember, you're far too young.
Thank you.
It was 23 years ago, when television was full of English roses, and they all had rather beautiful accents like that, you see, and they were all rather blonde and fair-skinned and very polite. And I'd been doing theatre, and I'd been out of work, like we're all, you know, resting, they call it, you see, in posh circles. And I felt that I didn't stand a chance in television. Not a chance, because I was the wrong type. I was too, you know. And
ample.
Ample, yes. And everything was wrong. The features weren't chiselled, and I went reluctantly. For the job. And instead, when you go for a job as an actor, as you know, you always give them the best 7 and 6-penny accent, you see, and say things like, well, of course, I've done quite a deal of Shakespeare and Ibsen and Chekhov. Well, I was so certain I wasn't going to get this job that I went in the most aggressive mood and sort of sat down like this, and instead of one person, there were 7, you see. And then Tony Warren said to me, I didn't know him at the time, and he said, "Would you mind taking your coat off, please?" And I said, "No, you'll just have to guess at it, won't you?" And dropped my umbrella on the way out, fell over the chair and said, "Don't phone me, I'll phone you." And what I'd actually done was played Elsie Tanner for about 5 minutes, you see. And at that time, I was really much too young for the part. So in those early days, they used to age me up. And that's your next question, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yes, I know it's your next question. I know it's coming. But I'll tell you.
Yes, I wish you would.
Yes, I'll tell you.
Because I wasn't sure what the question was.
No, well, the question is, you're not really got much older, you see.
That was my
It's on the tip of your tongue.
My next question was actually going to be, my hat, you've aged awfully well, and you haven't got much older since those early days, Pat.
Very well put.
Thank
Better than I could put it, yes. Well, in actual fact, for the first 12 months, I was aged up, that they put tram lines underneath my eyes, and they pull the hair back very tight in what we call a French pleat, girls, you see. And I'd got a double chin, and I was overweight. I'm one of those people, when I get very unhappy, I get very overweight, you see. And that's what they did to make me then the age that Elsie Tanner had to be. Well, I got a bit fed up of this, you see, and after 18 months, although it said in my contract I was not to lose weight, I went on a sneaky diet, still wearing the same clothes, you see, and dropping off lines one by one, softening the hair up a little bit. And it wasn't until 2 years later somebody noticed I'd lost weight, and then somebody noticed I looked a deal younger. And that was simply because I was aged up to start with, you see.
But you're somebody who's been very honest about her age. Was it last year you announced to the world that you were 60? I mean, is age an important factor with you?
It's great. It's great. I was 60 on the 26th of November.
Well, there must be somebody aging you down now, is there?
No. I've got it. There's sand and cement in there.
Yes,
And I've got a bit of white down there, you see.
Packing
It's a packing job. It's very well. No, it's just that I felt... there's a terrible thing about age, particularly with actors. They always lie about their ages, you see.
And disc jockeys.
Yes. Oh, yes. Can we explain to the public why they do? The real reason why actors usually lie about their age, and actresses, is because that if they know your real age, that can put you out of line from, say, a 40-year-old part. They'll say, she can't play 40, she must be 78 if she's a day.
But this is no excuse for Jimmy Young.
But look at you, you have first-hand experience of Peter Pan, haven't you? You've been playing Wendy all these years to Peter Pan. And I decided this is it. I'm going to come out of the closet, as it were. I am going to say I am 60. I am still going to play on stage 40-year-old parts, if I'm suitable to play them. And to hell with it, you know, let's wave the flag. I'm 60 years of age. And there's a lot of people out there that are 60 years of age, and they should stand up and say it and enjoy every minute of it.
I'll tell Jim that.
Don't be so cruel. Don't be so cruel. He's a mere baby.
But you've left Coronation Street now for Portugal, but you might come back, because you've come back once before, haven't you?
Yes, I did. But I hope now that they will not need me. I'm sure they won't. And
did you return because they needed you or because you needed them?
Well, it was a bit of both. They'd done a bit of slipping in the ratings round about that time, and I think that they felt that my return might assist a little, not too much. And I also was having a bit of a traumatic time in my life. And let us be honest about it and say that Coronation Street has a great warmth about it, a great feeling, and for me, for all the mates on the street, it was a haven. It was a place to run back to.
Are they all chums together? Because I think
No, they're not.
Bette Lynch who said that it was like being in a cage with a lot of rats.
Did she? Yes. She also said, kick one of us and we all fall down. No, it is like... No, they are not all friends of the bosom. Of course they're not. But it's like a family. They've been together, they've no time for rowing or quarrelling, they've got too much to do. There's some members of the cast who like others better. It's like, you know, in a family...
Who do you hate? Who do you hate?
Who do I hate? I haven't got that much energy to hate anybody.
You got out of that one.
No,
right.
truly, I'm not into hate. There are certain people with certain vibrations that I would move out of that area, you know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
But they don't hate one another, just, it's like you say, oh, God, we've got Auntie Ethel coming round next week. Oh, well, I suppose we'll have to put
Merely kidding, Auntie Ethel. I didn't
Yes.
mean that.
But that's the sort of feeling. There are members of the cast that don't get on so well. Oh, they get on all right, but they don't love each other.
Isn't it extraordinary, though, the way nothing the scriptwriters can write for Coronation Street can possibly reproduce the excitement and the scandal of what goes on outside Coronation Street for the characters?
It's a bit horrific, I think. I don't mean the cast horrific. They're not. They have been, many of them, in the public eye for 20, 22 years. And I think that this is one of the prices that we have to pay, that, you know, you sneeze or you cheek a policeman and somebody finishes up in the newspaper. It has seemed very unfortunate of recent years, the things that have happened. But there's a community there of 23 people. Take a street with 23 people. I reckon in 23 years, there'd be a few things go wrong in that street and somebody might get arrested or somebody might get divorced and remarried or cause a scandal. And in fact, it is very like real life. But I would say that it has, the climate of the press has been more than hysterical, I should think, over it. And I think it's about time it all died down and they had a rest.
But then will as many people want to watch it?
Oh, sure, they watched it before. They watched it way before we started with all this scandal and kicking each other to death and all whatever we're supposed to be doing.
How are you enjoying Portugal?
Oh, it's lovely, yes. It's, my part of Portugal, there was a 100 miles an hour gale this morning, yes. Yes, the chimney blew off.
It's a hard question for you to answer, but how long can you see Coronation Street surviving?
Oh, I think...
I mean, I think it's going to miss you. It could Peter as well.
Yes, it's missing a lot of people, but I think that the core of it is so good, and the artists that work in it are so good. I think that it will survive. I hope it will, for the fact that it gives work to a lot of actors, for starters. And a lot of people are very fond of it. I hope it will go on forever and ever. It has become part of the British way of life, if you like.
Well, I hope so. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much, Terry. Thank you.